But listen, we finally saw some fight back from Peter Dutton. This was good. His budget and reply speech. Personally, I would have liked to see a bit more of the mongrel, what Paul Keating used to call the mongrel. I'm sure Dutton is capable of the mongrel and being a bit more aggressive in making his points. But, James, he made some terrific points, apart from the obvious one, which is let's look to Europe to see how the energy crisis is affecting them, and let's now change. He squibbed it on net zero.
Yes.
He's had some stupid Simon Birmingham obviously been in his ear. I have warned you, Peter Dutton. Simon Birmingham walks towards you, put your hands in your fingers, go la 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 till he's gone past. But there was a Simon Birmingham line in the budget reply speech was about, oh, we're all looking forward to renewables or sustainable or whatever. Anyway, he squibbed it on the nuclear thing because let's have a conversation about nuclear. How do you have a conversation about nuclear? Oh, sit down, have some tea, Rita and James. We're going to have a conversation about nuclear.
How many conversations are we going to have about nuclear?
What is? Oh, yes, it's that fizzy stuff that you get energy out of. Yes, anyway, more tea, Rita. I mean,
well, hang on. They're not in power. Like, I mean...
Yeah, but they were.
They were in power. They didn't do it then. You've got a different leader now.
But when you're in opposition, you put forward alternative policies. You don't have conversations.
Yeah. Hang on, though. I think you're being a little bit unfair to Peter Dutton here. I mean...
I don't think he's being unfair enough. I think that even to be talking about this now is a huge win, but there's plenty of other wins in this.
Yes.
He called out the government for this bizarre repatriation of people who turned their backs on civilization to go hang out with ISIS, and why would they do that when there are Yazidis and Assyrians here? And he called them out specifically, who were victims of ISIS, who we brought here after Islamic State to have refuge here, and now we're bringing these people back, potentially to be their neighbors. That is bonkers. He talked about making that policy where you can take $50,000 of your super and put it into your house to get people investing in their own homes. That's great. And, he also did what Scott Morrison was too afraid to do over the course of his term of government, which was to take up the fight of the culture wars and call out to, from our friend Bella Debrera to talk about all of these things about our heritage, our history, what's going on in schools. Now, fine. What happened before when they were in government and what they did and what they didn't do, the sins of commission and sins of omission, since it's a Sunday morning, those need to be put in the past. Let's look to what they're doing now in the future.
You've had too many coffees, because I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah. As I said, I thought there needed to be more mongrel in there, but the good things he did,
the good things are very
good things, particularly the culture wars. You're right to mention Bella Debrera, who put out an IPA statement saying that this was the first time an opposition has specifically identified Australians should be proud, probably since Tony Abbott, proud of our British heritage and our migrant story. Fantastic. That was great stuff. That was really, you're right about that. And he questioned radical gender theory. That was an absolute tick, an absolute plus. And you're right, I thought it was brilliant, James, how he contrasted the Yazidis who came here to this concept of bringing back the ISIS people, Rita.
All good, but at the end of the day, the number one issue in the country right now is cost of living. And cost of living is very closely tied right now to the surging energy costs, which will flow through and cause further inflationary pressure. It is crippling for business, it's crippling for households. And when you embrace net zero, then you really don't have an argument. So he does need to make a shift there. Yes, it would be bold, it would be brave, but he's in opposition.
Brave even. It's very yes, minister. Oh, it would be a brave move, minister.
It would be very courageous, as Sir Humphrey would say. Yeah. But it is necessary, not just because the Australian people deserve an alternative, but because it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. Yep. But you can't, back to the point about nuclear, you cannot on the one hand embrace net zero and still cling to that unless you link it specifically to nuclear. There is no alternative.
And we're past conversations.
We're past conversations. It's not a conversation about nuclear. You either say we are doing nuclear in order to get us to net zero, or you say we're abolishing net zero because we don't know how to get there. You do one or the other. You can't just faff around, and they are still faffing around on that key issue. I think Rita is right. It is the number one issue. And the further we go into this, day by day, as you were just saying, James, it is so clear that Labor is on completely the wrong train. We are heading wrong way. go back, like those signs.
And then,
that's what's happening. This is the fight. This is the fight.
But then the problem that we're going to get into here, is that And we need to be really, really careful, I think, in this country here, because the temptation is going to be to take a situation where the market has been destroyed by government interventions and then make it even worse with even more government interventions. And that's essentially the signals that we're getting out of Labor right now. We're talking about price caps, but who's going to have to pay for that? You know, I mean, what's that going to lead to? What's going to lead to less generation? It's going to lead to higher costs somewhere else. It's going to, you know, I mean, none of these things are easy and without consequence. And we are here because people have been making the easy, you know, sound good kind of choices, which of course have led us down this path.
And that market manipulation you mentioned is key. We've seen that at state level. We've seen that at federal level. That's why these plants, these coal plants have been run down. They're being closed early because it doesn't make sense for these organisations to pump tens of millions into maintenance when it is a dead asset, when the government tells you the future is renewable, we're going to decarbonise the economy, we're going to tax and tax and tax
well, beyond that, though, there's another point about that, because what the government has been doing, and what, in fact, governments of all stripes have been doing with this renewables thing, is we know that, for example, when the sun is shining, that solar power is free, but everything that goes into getting it to you is incredibly expensive, and they've been essentially socialising the costs of getting that power to us. That's what that $20 billion fund that was in the budget was all about, to rewire the nation so that you could wire up all these redundancies. But CSIRO has said that it's something on the order of $500 billion to get to all the repowering and rewiring of the nation. You need to get renewables.
And if they say that, triple it.
Yes,
Triple
but it's less than a decade ago we had all the gold-plated transmission wires. We did all that. The consumers have paid for all that.
Yeah,
now they're talking about a whole new bunch of transmission wires to link up green hydrogen, which doesn't exist yet, pushing water uphill. Great idea, that one.
Malcolm,
and solar panels out in the middle of Whoop Whoop, which are going to destroy the land out there, and wind turbines sitting around not blowing. That's what we're linking these 20 billion worth of transmission wires to. Great idea. None of this is going to work. It's a massive... It's not a white elephant. It's a herd of friggin' white elephants, and they are coming to us, and they're going to trample our economy. And the coalition has to get tough and get up there and say no and offer an alternative that the people of Australia can start voting for now. That's what is needed. That's what I'm not hearing, Rita.